Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Today, we're going to be interviewing Sahar Mansoor from Bare Necessities in just a few minutes. She should go live with us in a few minutes, and our topic for today will be how to become a more mindful consumer. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Sahar will be with us in just a minute. Hi.
Hey Gia, how's it going?
Really good. It's so nice to see you here. Thank you for joining us and thank you for wanting to have this conversation with us. When we
Of
thought
course, thank you for thinking of us. Thank you for having me.
very excited to be partnering with you at Bear, but more importantly, to hear your story and have you share insights on how we can start on this journey of becoming more mindful as consumers, no matter where we are at this journey. So before we begin, I just want to thank everyone for joining us again. I'm going to introduce Seher. So for those of you who don't know, Seher is the founder and CEO of Bare Necessities, a zero social enterprise. She's an economy nerd, a voracious reader, and a curious traveler. She also book called How to Lead a Zero Waste Life that was published by Penguin Random House last year, I believe. Am I correct?
6 months ago, yeah, complete new author.
So, Seher has obtained accredited degrees on environmental topics in India, the US, and England, and has also become a University of Cambridge alumni. Her business offers zero waste personal care, lifestyle, home care, and educational products and services. And she also has courses on um, circular economy in 30, zero waste in 30, and sustainability in 30. So now we couldn't have picked better to start this conversation with. Um, how do you feel, after having started Bear? How do you feel about where you are on your journey, and also maybe like an insight on what what does one do when it sort of feels overwhelming or where to begin?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you so much for that very generous introduction. Gia just made me sound way cooler than I really am, to be honest. But yeah, honestly, I started to try and live a zero waste lifestyle or a low impact lifestyle about 5 years ago. And like you said, it can be really overwhelming at first, and COP26 just finished. We're hearing all of this stuff. We're all kind of overwhelmed. We also, are digesting news at this crazy, unprecedented rate like no other generation before, right? And of course, it can get overwhelming. But I think what really inspires me is all of the positive solutions out there, the amount of amazing kick-ass entrepreneurs building sustainable businesses, the amount of like renewable energy we have now has been surpasses all kind of limits from prior. So I think there's just so many things that keep me positive and kind of the all the environmental good news, I guess, is something that keeps me going. But very specifically, I think that's on a larger level, right? And then on a more individual level, I think it's so important to start to think that actually our actions do matter. Because they all absolutely do, right? And I think we all saw that. We all experienced that with being at home, in lockdown, and then global emissions were lower, right? And the air was just fresher. So not just science is telling us or some silly book is telling us, but we actually got to experience that over the past 24 odd months. So yeah, I think all the little things really do add up, whether that is how you purchase your clothes, your food, the personal care products that you use, what ingredients they're made out of, so it's not kind of polluting the groundwater, in which then you're trying to grow your own food and then kind of consuming that. And it's just all so interrelated. So I think the best things to get started is just kind of do a little audit on your own lifestyle and see, well, how much waste am I producing? How can I be part of the solution? And what are aspects of my life that I can kind of reduce my waste on?
Yeah, no,
So
that's
yeah, why don't you tell all of us also what amala.earth is doing and what you are set out to build?
Sure. So amala.earth started, our founder, Mrs. Gunjan Jindal Poddar, has been thinking about this for several years now, but amala.earth is going to turn 1 in April next year. And so
Yeah.
we're a conscious marketplace for all things earth friendly. And while due to the pandemic, we've sort of wanted to build a community of like-minded people, founders such as yourself, and also people both online and offline doing things to sort of work together, difference not just themselves and the community, but also the world and the planet that we inhabit. And I think once things start to change a little bit and like we are going start going back out again, we're hoping to do more stuff online. But as of now, for people who want to get to know Amala a little bit better, they just have to log on to our website, www.amala.earth, and have a look. And we have products across 6 categories, and we've been able to partner with some wonderful brands across these categories, and super excited to have partnered with Bare, because I think do you do this so well, like you make these switches so easy. And yeah, and so needless to say, a lot of our products a lot of the best products are listed on our site, and we're hoping to do more workshops with Zahir and her team in the near future. So that's it.
Likewise. Awesome. Thanks for that overview, and we can't wait to do workshops together. That'll be amazing. Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you as well, apart from like our beauty habits and our habits at home, as we're mostly all doubly vaccinated, I wanted to broach the subject of mindful travel, or like being a mindful consumer when it comes to traveling. So what are the tips that you and your family, or you and people at Bay have sort of incorporated into your lifestyle when you look at traveling locally, and then let's hope internationally next year? So what are the things that, you've incorporated or you found have made a difference?
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I think I just got to appreciate my local surrounding even more. And not just like local in the sense of Karnataka, but like hyper local, like places that are 35 odd kilometers away from, where I am. And I think just the opportunity to go camping, hiking, trekking. I went also to Tempe, which I saw that they even logged in, which is this really cute container home made
Yeah.
from an old shipping container, which is this adorable little weekend glamping sort of a thing, hybrid, amidst these gorgeous hills and, spotting about 11 peacocks, wild
Wow.
peacocks. So I think, those types of experiences I think are super, super important. And also in the terms of like the miles and the local miles that, they're away from you, like, and that's so in, you can talk about food miles, you can talk about air miles, but I think I got to really appreciate what hyperlocal travel has to offer over the past 20 odd months. And I got to see some gorgeous waterfalls in my own city, which was like literally like TK Falls, 30 kilometers away from where I am. So I think that's been the few things that we've all done is really, looked at Camp Mount, look at all of the sites that are just in our neighborhood, where we can go possibly to just have an experience of the great outdoors
Yeah.
without this, stress of traveling with multiple people on an aircraft and, contributing to the pandemic. So I think yeah, I think that's something that I really appreciated. But also to look back a little bit, I think just being a poor college student also in England, I got the experience to just like camp all across Europe, and that's largely because of budget constraints. But I think I got to get this really local experience by talking to locals, living with people from multiple parts of Europe in like a little youth hostel of sorts. So I think in many ways, living a sustainable life.
Are you still there?
Yeah, so I think slowly started to appreciate it even more over the past few years. Even. What about you, Gia? I know I saw that you went to Kashmir, and I know you are a huge advocate of sustainable travel. So can you tell us more about also what you do to incorporate more sustainable travel into your own life?
Sure. So I think for me personally, the learning never stops. There are lots of things that I still want to like hope to change and adapt as time passes. And I think with every with every trip, when you come back and you look back, you think, okay, I did all of this, but I could also do this in my next trip. So I think for me, fundamentally, the most important thing, like you said, would be to travel local and to support local businesses as much as possible, and to sort of give back to uh, the local economy by supporting homestays and Airbnbs and cottages and independent homes, as opposed to sort of large hotels with large room inventory. And maybe the step after that would be to go to a boutique property with 4 or 5 rooms or a cottage or something. And I think that is it helps the people look it helps the people it helps local employment, it helps people sort of get back into the rhythm of things, because the pandemic's just been so difficult for all industries, but particularly tourism and hospitality. But I also think it gives you a very different lens and a very different way with which you view the world. So um,
Yeah.
some of my most beautiful travel experiences have come from living in Airbnbs and cottages and self-contained accommodation, as opposed to places where you're tended to every now and then. You sort of end up experiencing it so differently and so much more. And I think the other thing would be to do as many driving trips as possible. So definitely a huge advocate for that. I used to get very sick growing up on long car journeys, but now
Me
my
too.
husband have started to enjoy them a lot more. So I think those would be my two biggest ones. But also trying to figure out people and organizations and maybe like individual establishments that are doing things to make a difference. So like there are lots of properties, maybe even under the rare portfolio or other sustainable portfolios, that are doing a lot within responsible tourism. And I think in places where you may not be able to get an Airbnb or a cottage, or like an independent stay, you might be able to work with a restored home, or or something like
Yeah.
that, where either employing locally, or they have like a farm to table concept, or they've got solar powered, or their entire place is solar powered. So I think people are doing really good stuff, and people are doing some really incredible stuff even in this space. I think it all comes down to research.
Yeah,
And for me,
definitely.
part of travel is not often the travel itself, but it's the planning that comes, the anticipation. What are you going to experience? How is it going to be?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think the research um, has incorporated a lot of this, like trying to figure out who are these people who are doing stuff to make a difference. What is it that we can do? So Malika asked us a question before I go to the next question. What are some of the few mindful habits that we can incorporate in our daily lives? Do you want to take
Yeah.
that? Sahil?
Sure, sure. That's a great question, Malika. Thanks for that. Honestly, I think the best thing that we can do to, be conscious consumers is to have as much contact as we possibly can with our producers. And whether that means it is your local farmer, it is your local baker, it's your local Masood tailor, as the distance between the producers and the consumers has increased, the transparency is also reduced, right? And that globally what's happening. So I think the best thing that we can do is just really support that local economy, hyper local, even like we've mentioned, and as far as possible, like buy your stuff in a package free format as far
Yeah,
as possible. And
yeah,
I totally understand that that's might not be possible on a daily kind of day to day when we're all like have tons of meetings and businesses that we're trying to build and parents to be to amazing kids and nephews and all of that stuff. I totally appreciate that. But then we do have an amazing digital footprint of small businesses that are conscious businesses that are on this Instagram realm who are really trying to be part of that solution in so many ways. So
yeah,
maybe supporting the local economy in that front as well, and kind of just aligning maybe your consumption values with with your consumption patterns. And I
absolutely.
think that synergy is so important because it also ultimately makes you feel better and feel more like I'm living my values. And I think that's really important. So look at those labels too when you do buy from brands that do have labels, and ask questions if you don't understand or if something is unclear to you, because as consumers we have the we have all right to know what's kind of all the ingredients in that XYZ product, right? So I think don't be afraid to ask as well. And I think that's kind of one of the benefits of this digital era. It's made it so accessible for us to ask those questions. And of course, little things like carry your own, like I never leave without my little straw, fork, and spoke, and things like that, right? Even your cloth bag, your water bottle, whatever that might be. So just know that we can be part of the solution. And if that means we're going to divert that little bowl and cup when you're going to get that, I don't know, momos to go on the way or whatever, that way you're also being part of the solution. So yeah, and then I think the other thing is acknowledging our privilege and checking
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
learning, but also being learned in the past. And I think that's something that comes from lots of humility and a place of privilege to acknowledge what we do have, what a good, billions of people in this world don't have access to, whether that's water, light, electricity, food, all of that, and all of those comforts. Yeah, and even other things which are really fun. I have two big sisters, so I've done this all my life, which is just like clothes swapping, embracing the hand-me-downs. I practically have never had to shop in my life because I have two amazing big sisters.
Video is a little bit blurry and distorted at the moment. You want to just check the Wi-Fi you're on because this is really interesting and I don't want people to lose it. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm on data. Is it better now by any chance?
A little bit, yeah. Do you want to just repeat that last bit about like, so you were talking about beauty a little bit, and then you started going into how you can be a more mindful consumer at home when it comes to even fashion, because, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's really everything, right? Our lifestyle, from the minute we wake up in the morning to the way we clothe ourselves. And I think our clothing choices can be so, so mindful, and they should be. They reflect who we are. We communicate so much of our identity through our clothing. So yeah, I think swapping, thrifting, embracing hand-me-downs. I do have two big sisters, so I've had the luxury of having the hand-me-downs for basically my entire life, um, which is definitely very helpful. And then also every Eid, basically, I have my Masood tailor who makes my Eid salwar kameez. And I love that tradition. In the pandemic, we also started to have Masood uncle make a bunch of other Christmas ornaments and things like
Oh,
that
yeah.
because there was no business and try to embed it into Bare. So yeah, I think those are my quick few things to get started with. What
Uh,
about you, Gia? Is there anything else you want to add to that?
yeah, sure. So for me, it's actually a little bit of the reverse. I've been borrowing clothes from my mother and grandmother when it comes to sari for most of
Yeah.
my child's life. And I think some of my most prized outfits in my wardrobes are things that I've borrowed and and they've gifted me.
Totally.
But I have two younger sisters, so they take all my clothes, and it's great. We have very distinct styles. Um, um, but I think the question of fashion always pops up, and I think while you've covered a lot about swapping, thrifting, taking care of your clothes so that they last, so that the lifespan of
Totally.
the is extended and you're not I think repeating clothes like like re-wearing clothes, and I know you and I have talked about that a lot, but I think it's so important to be able to do away with this whole idea that clothes are only meant to be worn like a certain number of times. But I think like when um, whatever it is, you need to be able to enjoy the garments that you buy, and you need to be able to wear them on multiple occasions. Like I think this whole thing, and I see it changing a lot, but I think people are still a bit nervous or apprehensive of embracing the whole idea of re-wearing and repeating. They
Totally.
give it away or donate it, but they're not so comfortable sort of you know, re-wearing their
Yeah.
clothes as often as they would have liked. And I know a lot of people have like capsule wardrobes, particularly in Europe, where you can just have like six things and then you just mix it up, and that's all you wear over the year, like through the course of the year. But I think the other thing could also be like opting for like supervising the tailoring or the process, or like going with someone local, like which is what you did. But also opting for natural fabrics,
Totally. Yes. Yeah.
so the synthetic. And I know this is a longer conversation when it comes to fabric. I think like, I mean, even generally speaking, like like a linen, or what would your fabric choices when it
For
comes to?
sure. Yeah, cotton, linen, hemp are big ones for sure. I'm really into the breathability of bamboo as well, even for working
Oh
out stuff.
yes,
So when I used to run, I haven't run in a while, but it was really nice, breathable bamboo from Atlas. And I'll have like a bunch of stuff from Sui, which is hemp based, linen. I think there are just so many amazing, gorgeous fabrics, especially that are all grown in India and distributed everywhere else. And that's something that we really it's a huge asset. And also, it's like every state in India has its own art form, very much like food, and it's so cool. And it's something that we should definitely be celebrating. And what a cool way to celebrate than to wear it, right? Like the
yes,
bandanis, the cuts, the natural dyes. It's amazing. The Chanderi silk, the amount of options that we have is just so beautiful.
yeah.
So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. They're so diverse and they're so different and they're so rich in so many different ways. No, you're absolutely right. I think another thing I'm doing, I don't know, like over the years is sort of using like turmeric and other vegetable stains, like give your older clothes a new piece of life. And I haven't gotten to the point where I can necessarily wear all of them out yet because they're like experiment kind dye. But I've been out of like t-shirts and sweatshirts and shirts, and I think some colors, some plant-based dyes just hold better than others,
Yeah.
and so that, it's also a really fun activity to do with
It's
your.
so fun. Totally. We've actually done a bunch of kids workshops where we're doing, natural dyeing with turmeric and moringa powder or neem powder, and beetroot powder. And there are
Yeah,
all these experiments. Like, we thought the beetroot would stay pink, but actually over the days it gets more brown. So there have definitely been lots of learnings and failed experiments, but they've just
yeah.
overall been really fun. I totally agree.
I think there's definitely, sure, undoubtedly, there's no negotiation on that. So we've been getting a lot of questions on beauty. So just gonna take the question back to beauty for a minute. Um, so at Bare, we know you have a lot of shampoo bars and a lot of soap bars and a lot of conditioner bars as well. Have listed on Amala. Do you want to talk a little bit about like why someone would pick a shampoo bar over a shampoo bottle, or why someone? Yeah,
Yeah,
because we.
totally. Yeah, for sure. So honestly, when I first started my zero waste lifestyle, soap is so easy. A couple of things are so easy, like even just experimenting with bean sticks and bamboo sticks. But hair care was something that was particularly difficult. And that's why also Bare Necessities took its time to launch the products that we really felt comfortable, confident in, and all of that. And I love them because they have only natural ingredients. So everything is plant-based, completely, nothing is polluting to our groundwater. We have something which is down to earth spa, which is like has patchouli and hemp oil. We use cocoa butter from Mason and Co, which is really
Oh,
like the softening agent. So we've really gotten really experimental with the scent, and the other one is more like floral and girly, and it is like cranberries and lime and roses and things like that. So it's been really fun, a great process, a really fun process of coming up with the products in the first place. And I think, it's something that has worked for a bunch of us. We've done a lot of experiments on, especially the entire Bear team. So thank you so much. We had like scoreboards and like we're rating on, what's working for curly hair, what's working for straight hair and things like that. And then finally we kind of came up with them. So I'm really proud about the products. Why? Because the amount of plastic that they divert, right?
yeah.
Because one bar will last you about 30 to 50 washes, depending on the length of your hair. So
Yeah.
actually, I started using my shampoo bar in August, right? And I'm still using the same one. And the conditioner bar will have even more life. So, that'll probably last you well 8 or 9 months, I'm assuming. So, and so basically you in on an average human will use about 1.5 shampoo bottles. If you're looking at like a standard kind of 500 ml every 2 months. So the amount of plastic that you're diverting is amazing.
Yeah.
And think about a year versus a lifetime. I think that is really great that it just kind of goes back to the groundwater. And I think that's why it's very core to the philosophy, the bar format. And yeah, super excited about it. So definitely give it a try if you haven't already. And if you have any questions, you can look at all of the cool reels that we've made or the question and answers we've answered about them
Yeah,
as well. Yeah, you tried the shampoo bar too. What did you think about it?
I have. So actually, I tried the shampoo bar from another brand earlier, and they left my skin, they left my hair really, really dry, and so I was a bit sort of apprehensive. But I tried the shampoo and bars together. Quite happy to be honest, but I love. So yeah, so I think I understand the initial apprehension because people are expecting like a whole lot of lather or like a whole lot of like, they're expecting their hair to feel a certain way, I guess. But once you make the switch and you've tried it, say like 2 or 3 times, I think one gets used to it and the transition becomes a lot smoother. But it's getting to that point where you're saying, okay, from this moment on, this is what I'm going to try, what I'm going to go
Yeah.
with. Like, like I have a lot of friends who've got shampoo bars and conditioner bars that we've all gifted, and it's just lying in the bathroom. They're not like touching it yet. They're like, when I'm ready,
Yeah.
comes to that.
Yeah.
But for most people, I've checked with, once they made the transition, there's been no looking back. So like even with like bamboo cotton buds, for instance, like for people who doctors say you can still use it, um, there's there's just there's just no two ways about it. Once you've switched, you can't really go back. Like, so I
Yeah.
think stuff like that, or with using like swapping the makeup removers and using like a reusable cloth. Like, I think it takes a little bit of time for you to perhaps get used to the idea, but once you figure out how much you're saving and how much you're helping and how much each of our individual actions go on to make a difference with this one swap or switch, I think it's absolutely amazing. And I think it's just getting people or getting ourselves to that point where we're like, okay, this is the one habit we're going to hone in on, or this is the one thing we're going to change. And most people I know, once they've tried it this way, they find it really hard to go back. They
Yeah. Once you go green, you'll never go back for sure.
things who haven't washed their face, they've gone to their room and they can like use their cloth because they didn't want to use like, the whole like cover remover wipes and stuff, like full dedication. So I know I really commend what we can do once we realize that each of our actions, singularly and cumulatively, can go on to make such a profound difference in not just us, but like our waterways and the planet that we inhabit. And I think, I think you talk about that so well. Do you want to take some of the questions, maybe a little bit about uh, like being more mindful in the kitchen or being more mindful in like with beauty and bath products, since we've talked a
Yeah,
little bit about already?
yeah, for sure. Honestly, I think I was trying to like scroll through some of the questions, but I think another paradigm shift that really changed something in me is looking at my consumption choices as an investment. So every time I buy something, thinking not that I'm just like buying it for whatever, an event, or not just buying an outfit for something, but I'm like truly investing in that outfit that I'm buying. And that's because I'm investing in also the values that that garment is, standing with, whether that means fair trade, whether that means supporting the amazing employees that work there with access to good healthcare and good health insurance. Whether that means this, the sourcing of the fabric is so mindfully done and only natural dyes are used, so the synthetics aren't like polluting our waterways. So like when I started to think of all of my few purchases as like a true investment in my values and and I think we do vote with our dollars, we do vote with our money. So I think making that conscious shift when I was picking to consume also was really, really important. But yeah, what are some tips and tricks in your kitchen? Honestly, I'm really into root to stem cooking, which is actually this concept that started in Europe that's, rooted in this concept of snout to tail cooking, which is that you use all parts of the animal. But of course, since we're all plant-based and trying to be more environmentally sensitive, it's the idea that you use all parts of the fruit or vegetable. So whether you're making like a cauliflower or a broccoli, you use the florets, but you also use the stem and you use the leaves. So I'm really into that. And then also now, like when I do have little food scraps, of course we can compost them. But another thing to do is to add another life to it is I save all of my food scraps and then I make it just a giant big broth and I
Yeah.
just let it boil for a really long time. And it's so good and really got into kind of the ramen making and stuff. But also if you don't want to do that, you can just use that water for like any curry or anything that you're making at home.
Yeah.
So I think that's also been really fun.
Yeah.
I love composting. I mean, that's kind of my entry point to my zero waste lifestyle. And I have tons of admiration for Daily Dump, which is kind of like 15 years old, like it's just a legacy kind of brand as well. It started this, made when you think about our Indian lifestyle, in a lot of villages, the toilet is still outside, right? In many villages, especially. And that's primarily by my previous job. And I think the idea of bringing the composter into your home, they had to just break so many social barriers in the way we think. And I think recognition has to be given to some of these amazing sustainable businesses way before the Instagram era,
Absolutely.
who like really built this ecosystem. So composting is just huge. I mean, 60% of our waste can just simply be, diverted if we simply compost. And I think that's so powerful because we know that that whole mixing of, food waste with plastic and XYZ waste of e-waste or whatever is what causes that methane buildup. And methane is like 32 times more harmful than like carbon dioxide and things like that. So, and that's what's causing even like these landfill fires,
Yeah.
right? It's all of that insane amount of methane buildup. So I think, compost your food waste if you can. Like that's literally like the single best thing all of us can do. So I think
Yeah.
that's my tips in the kitchen. And for home, I guess, be really mindful of your cleaners. Use your own little cotton workout clothes to wipe everything down rather than single-use paper towels because every time we use paper towels, we're cutting down those gorgeous trees that make our planet so green and give us life and oxygen. So yeah, big rant there. Sorry about that, but
Enjoyed listening to you, as I'm sure everyone else who are tuning in and have tuned in through the course of the session. I wanted to talk to you and ask you a little bit about household cleaners as well. I know we have quite a few of these listed on Amala, and we made the switch at home personally a couple of years ago because I have a dog that gets sick really easily and is very sensitive to a lot of these, sort of store-bought varieties without naming any. And so we tried like Better India and Herbal Strategy and a whole bunch of others until we finally said, okay, this is what we're going to go with. We just went with the subscription model. While I know we have these on our site, and now every day or every couple of months, there's like a new brand, that comes up that's using subsidies that are not just good for you and the waterways, but are child safe, pet friendly, absolutely non-toxic. What are some of your favorites? And do you also do you prefer going the DIY or would you be okay with buying?
yeah, cool. I lost you a little bit, but I think I got the gist of it. I love making bioenzymes. It's like a family project. And I think, we have so many peels at home and we're getting really creative. We started off with just the citrus peels, but now we're like, oh, pomegranate and banana and like all of that. So we do just love making bioenzymes. So I think that is definitely my multi-surface cleaner kind of choice for like tables, countertops, floors, bathrooms, sinks, everything. So that's been really fun. Yeah, bioenzymes. I do have, lots of favorite brands. I mean, like you said, there are so many cool, amazing, sustainable brands out there that are just really trying to rebuild for better. And I think that is so, so cool. And incorporating circular economy, incorporating just mindfulness on every front about everything we discussed, and making it so easy for us consumers, just at the tip of our fingertips to purchase, right? And I think that's really cool and that's awesome. My sister actually just had a baby, and I just love Movie Journal, which is on Amala.earth. They're all so cute, and they have different themes. So the first one I think was like ants, right? And this little collection, and they have little pocket work that's all patchwork, and it's super soft and like. Some of them are in raw silk, some of them are in different fabrics, but a lot of them are also dyed using only natural kind of dyes like onions and indigo, and I think are just so gorgeous. And they also do little like stuffed toys with it, and I
Yeah.
think that's just so cute. Yeah, so I think that's like one of my current favorites, just because I was also just looking for gifts for my sister's baby. But yeah, lots of amazing sustainable brands out there. So super proud and excited to see this ecosystem just like growing and mushrooming.
And thriving. And it's just incredible to
Yeah,
see people join hands and approach it from a collaboration and not a competition point of view.
yeah,
Because
totally.
the end goal is the same, no matter whichever way you look, And it's
Yeah.
um a lot of that looking at people and impact over
Yeah, totally. Like actually a lot of people would ask me that. They're like, oh, like, do you see
Can you hear me still?
yeah, there was a small lag, but now I'm back in action. I can hear you.
No, I was just talking about how I mean, over the course of like the last couple of years, but particularly since my time at Amala, I've had so many wonderful, enriching conversations with so many founders and brands such as yours, and their spirit is the same. It's like most, I haven't, it's amazing because I've met everyone who said, okay, how can we find a way to do this together? How can we find a way to solve this together? It's always like we're on the same team. We have the same sort of task, have the same sort of mission. At the end of the day, our end goal is the same. And I think what's wonderful um, is that all of these amazing, incredible entrepreneurs and brands are able to hold hands because they understand that at the end of the day, like it's people over profit. It's people over it's people first, like it's a planet first. And I think that at the end of the day I find very heartening and also very beautiful because it just makes these conversations so much, I don't know, so much more meaningful because they're not thinking what can I get from this person or what can I get from this brand. It's okay, how can we co-create something to come up with something that'll help solve this problem. And I think overall it's just been a really wonderful experience. And when you see stuff like that, you feel a little bit more hopeful of the future that we have in front of us because you're like, okay, there are people out there that have got your back. There are people that are working tirelessly to make a difference. There are lots of these people, and I think it's just, when you feel overwhelmed and you feel like it's scary, and I feel like the news can sort of make us feel like, okay, as far as the planet is concerned, we've done too much. But then when you see this, it kind of offers you that paradigm shift and it brings back some of that. I guess it makes you want to make a difference in your own small way as well, you know? Can you still hear me and see me, Seher?
Yeah, I can. Mhm.
Uh, I
It's a
thought I was.
slight lag, but yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I think we're all on the same team, and that's Team Planet, and that's Team, better, greener, more just world. And I'm so excited that, there are just so many of us trying to be part of the solution.
100%. I think before we leave, because we've taken a couple of these questions, I just wanted to ask you to round up and to just sort of share what are some of your um, umbrella tips on how we can become more mindful consumers for people who might have joined in a little bit later. So when you look at kitchen or beauty or home or fashion, um, what are some of the 5 or 6 things one can do when they start today, where they don't have to feel like they have to try and change everything overnight?
Yeah, for sure. I think know your producer as far as possible, and if not, read the labels, and pick mindfully, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's businesses or brands that you want to bring into your own home. Segregate and compost if you can, but if not, also just carry whatever you possibly can to help avoid that single-use plastic that you might encounter throughout the day or your travel. And just, yeah, never forget to be compassionate, not only to yourself, but also to the planet and people around you.
That's beautiful. And do you have any thoughts on how you can make packaging and gifting more mindful and more ethical or more earth friendly? Are there things that you do?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I think I'm big on like making things. I
Mhm.
think, I love like thoughtful gifts that are you baking a cake or experiential, like, having a little picnic planned for my mom at Carbon Park, or, my best friend gave me a scuba diving trip um, after my graduation. And, those are the experiences that I like love and value the most. And I think, so just focuses on experience rather than stuff as gifts, I think is really cool and really important, especially as we head towards this like end of year gifting kind of Christmas season. Yeah, sorry, I think we lost each other, but I was just saying like, experiences rather than stuff. And then when you do
Yeah.
get some cute, thoughtful, mindful gifts, you can use like cute fabrics to do gift wrapping. You can use newspaper, potted plants instead of a bouquet. The list goes on.
No,
Yeah, so
I think so beautifully. I think there is no better gift than a handmade gift. And I think if you can go out there and like write something or doodle something or wrap something yourself with, like, even if it's with cloth or with newspaper or brown paper or whatever, but if you make that effort to sort of like you said, bake a cake or make someone cookies or whatever, and your scuba diving present sounds absolutely incredible. But even I'm very much team experiences over team things as much as possible, and I hope to continue to be that way. Yeah, I think it's been a really, really lovely conversation, minus the tech lag. I'm really sorry. Not sure why this happens.
no,
Um,
no worries. Me too. I'm sorry, but I think it's just part of the occupation, like a hazard of our occupations and trade.
yeah,
It's all good.
much
But
that had, unfortunately, where over the course of the last 8 months where we've had this, where it's been a really interesting conversation, and I'm like struggling to make sense of, because I don't want to miss anything, but unfortunately, technology has other plans. We'll find a way to sort of collate some of this information, with you so that we can share it with our audience, and you can if you want as well. Just wanted to say thank you, Seher, for always being up for, speaking engagements, for interviews, for conversations, for collaborations. It makes my life and my job so much more fun. And so I'm really glad we could do this. And also to everyone who joined us today, thank you so much. You can learn more about Seher and all the cool stuff that she's doing. You can go over to her Instagram. And if you'd like to shop for Bare Necessities products or would like to see stuff across other categories, whether it's home or fashion or some of the brands even Seher talked about, you can check out our website at amala.earth, or go over to our Instagram page, which will lead you to our website. And yeah, stay well, be mindful, ask questions, do your research. Um, think before you buy. I think that's also a really important one. Like, try and figure out, like, can I do without this? Um, Sometimes we just get into a habit of acquiring more than we really need, and I think that's the first question that comes to mind. Um, but I think I'm going to end by saying what you shared, Seher, which was very beautiful, which is when you look at each of your purchases as an investment. So you're buying a product, but you're buying into an idea, a philosophy, and your that one thing that you end up buying ends up supporting the lives of so many others. And I
yeah.
think when you think about it like that, it's so beautiful. So thank you, and thank you all for tuning in.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me, Gia, Gunjan, the Amala team. It's always really fun chatting with you. And Thanks so much for onboarding Bear, and yeah, always love collaborating and chatting with like-minded people and businesses. So thanks for having us.
Absolutely. We're going to try this conversation again or trying to find ways to sort of incorporate some of this so that people who missed out can, access some of this. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Sounds great. Perfect. Thanks so much. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.